Well, joining me now is Congressman Bruce Westerman, House Natural Resources Ranking Member, along with capitalist comeback author Andy Puzder. Welcome to you both. Congressman, I want to start with you. Former Obama advisor David Axelrod says Biden has no answers on key issues. Listen to this.
When the president got into those questions, gas prices and inflation and abortion rights, there was a lot less of that certainty, a lot less of that emphatic nature of his initial presentation on NATO, because he doesn't have great answers.
Congressman, I don't think anybody would disagree that the president doesn't have great answers on these questions, but they're becoming such big issues at this point. I think America's crying out for a path forward. What do you make of what you're hearing from the president, particularly on this last trip?
Yeah, well, that was the understatement of the week, that the president doesn't have answers. I wish he would start listening to people that have answers. This is something that we can solve, but we certainly can't solve it the way the president's going about it. We can't be going to Saudi Arabia and other OPEC countries and begging them for energy when we can produce it here in the United States as cheaply and as cleanly and efficiently as any place in the world, better than any place in the world. But that's not the route the president wants to go down. He's shutting down pipelines. They won't permit new pipelines. And his administration had promised they would have a new 5-year plan out by the 30th of June. Well, guess what? That came and went, and we still have no 5-year plan on onshore or offshore federal leasing. So this president has been a dismal failure. Energy is just the apex of how bad and how incompetent this administration is.
Andy, I think the lack of the vision, the lack of a plan, the lack of a path forward has got consumers, it's got businesses feeling incredibly pessimistic. We're seeing record lows on the consumer sentiment front. The Atlanta Fed coming out now saying their estimate for second quarter GDP is negative, Andy. So you've got negative. That's recession territory. Talk about where you think we are with the economy and what you think happens now in the weeks and months ahead, given that we may be in a recession right now.
So we're in a deep hole. I think whether or not we're in a technical recession, certainly the American people are feeling the effects of a recession. They certainly believe we're in a recession. You've got the Everyday Products Index, which is just an index of things that people buy every day. Year over year is up over 20%. Larry Summers, the former Secretary of the Treasury under Clinton and an Obama economist, just came out with a co-authored report that says inflation is actually where it was during the Carter administration, which led to the huge recession that we had back in the early 1980s. And now you've got this number from GDP now, from the Atlanta Fed, is an accurate number. We are not only feeling in a recession, we are actually in a recession, despite what you've been hearing from the White House. You know, on this energy point, the congressman nailed it. That was a good discussion. But, you know, Russia is now exporting more oil than it did before the pandemic. We're producing about 1 million barrels a day less. The problem here isn't Putin. The problem is that they've restrained the American energy sector. They've discouraged banks from lending money. They've shut down pipelines. They won't grant leases. They won't grant permits. America is no longer energy independent. America should be the leader in producing fossil fuels. If Biden stood on the White House steps and said, look, we are back in the energy business, we're going to start producing oil like you've never seen before, oil prices would come down. He just can't do it.
Congressman, Andy makes such a good point there. I mean, Putin is exporting more oil than he was before these sanctions took place. We are producing less, and we are not even approving the opportunities for U.S. companies to do this. You mentioned those oil and gas offshore leases that the administration has failed to create a plan for. How devastating is it, Congressman, that at this moment the administration can't even meet its own deadlines to get lease opportunities approved for U.S. producers?
Well, you know, you'd think this would be front and center, Brian. And like Andy said, we're in a deep hole, but this administration keeps digging deeper. Instead of looking for solutions to the problems, The president's blaming others. His spokesperson is talking about some kind of liberal world order. What Americans care about is being able to afford fuel, being able to afford groceries, and the price of food is going through the roof as well. We're seeing the 4th of July picnics, we're talking 17% increase over last year. Ground beef up 36%, and it's not going to get better. This administration is doing absolutely nothing to help energy prices, which affects the whole economy. We're having fertilizer shortages. The price of fertilizer is over $1,600 a ton, and it's just multiplying all these input costs that go into producing food. So we're seeing high energy prices. We're feeling it at the pump. If you're in the South where I am, where it gets hot and you're running an air conditioner, you're feeling it on your electric bill. This winter, heating and gas prices are going to be even higher. And also, there's going to be less food and increased food costs. So I wish the administration would really focus on a real solution.
Across the board, these price increases. Andy, really quickly, the president says, how long are we going to have to deal with higher gas prices? As long as it takes. Quickly, your reaction to the president's message on that.
I think the answer is as long as we've got President Biden in office and as long as we've got the Democrats in control of Congress, we're going to be dealing with these high energy prices. Because even asked about the high energy prices, Brian Deese, as the congressman said, Brian Deese, Biden's chief economist, runs the National Economic Council, came out and said, yeah, we got high energy prices, but we got to preserve the liberal world order. Is that what Joe Biden said when he was running for office? I'm going to preserve the liberal world order. Is that how he got elected? I don't think so. And it's certainly not how Democrats are going to do a message Democrats will do well with in the fall.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the liberal world order is sustainable if the data we're seeing now is any indication.
No.
We got to leave it there. Congressman Bruce Westerman, Andy Puzder, thanks for being with us.